All right, good afternoon. We're going to get started, and then we'll have 16 more stragglers come in, but that's the only way to get them to here. So welcome back to Identiverse. This is the deployments and leading practices track. So we got a lot of real-world stories for you. We've got 4 great sessions lined up this afternoon, starting with Bertrand Carlier. And I'm not going to take any more of your time or his. Take it away.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it's good. Great. Hi, welcome, and it's really great to be back here and to see some people in the flesh, you know, and be able to shake hands for some people and to share a drink. I'm really happy to present you this afternoon this presentation. And actually, if you were at the keynote by Ian Glaser, he made some points that actually I made quite some of the same points here, but differently. So I'm going to start by saying who I am. I'm Bertrand Carlier. As you can hear, I'm based in Paris, in France. I'm a senior manager at Wavestone. I'm located there, and I have colleagues in the US and in the UK. And I'm also a founding member of ID Pro, which helps practitioners in identity to build up the skills and to show that to the world. So as a Wavestone employee, a consultant, I've went through a lot of projects, and that's what I want to talk about today. I hope you know and you like Indiana Jones. I do. And you're going to see quite some screenshots from those 3 movies this afternoon, and I hope you can relate to that. So I failed many times, and for many reasons. I've done 16 years of IGA, specifically Identity Governance and Administration projects for many of my clients, and I failed many times. Sometimes it went okay, but very often, at some point, it was really hard, and that's the lessons learned from those projects that I want to share with you today. It's not night yet. Well, in my country it is. So it begins in 2006. First project, I'm assigned a project manager. Everything went smoothly until we started UAT. They were there waiting for me, and it was hard. We did not prepare enough for this. I did not expect them to be that tricky with me and with the product, and they did everything they could to make the solution fail. And so we had to go back to design. We had to go back to discussing with end users to understand the requirements better and to do better. 2 years later, another project. I prepared for UAT, except when we went live with the LDAP provisioning, we opened the gates, we floated like 5,000 events. That's not a lot. To an LDAP which had 12 replicas with the topology that they did not really understood themselves. And you can imagine that it went bad. Actually, we took the LDAP down that day, and it was another lesson learned. Try to understand what the consequences of any going live into production action is going to be. Fast forward, 2012, I made it. We went live after 1 year of project. We made it. We put in production one of the trickiest solutions available on the market at that time, Oracle. I'm sorry if you've been struggling with this one. I did, but we went live, and it went well. After 1 year of project, no delay on the planning. I was very proud, and it went well for a couple of years, even 3 years, until we had to scale to 200,000 users. What we did, the customizations, the deduplications of homonyms, things like this, it was quite heavy on the database, and it scaled okay until 80K users, but not so much afterwards when we had to deploy actually North America with 120 users. So the solution crashed, and we had to find how to tweak Oracle Identity Manager, and that was a pain. 2018, so the project actually went in production correctly, but it did not until I was taken off the project, because I was not at my best. I was not at the right position, and I will talk about it a little after. But once I was off, everything went smoothly. So it took me some thinking at that time. That same year, 2018, the project, okay, the project actually froze even before we were getting funded. So I failed to convince higher management to fund the project and to explain them it was really needed. Okay, you hear me better now? Great, because I'm hearing me bizarre. And I'm still back at it. These days, I'm working on another identity governance and administration project. It's been 2 years. We already have 1 year delay, but I'm still trying, I'm still struggling, and we have a lot of surprises, and that's the fun of the job. And today, I'm still here telling you how not to fail, even though I failed many times. I'm sorry, this is from me, you're getting the lesson. I believe that if you're here today at Identiverse, and specifically in this session, you probably anticipate that an identity and access management project is not a smooth ride all the time. And you're probably not in the easy greenfield scenario, like you have no legacy identity and access management. All your applications are recent in the cloud. They support OIDC, they support scheme, and you're probably not there. You're probably anticipating some trouble. Because maybe you're there, maybe you have an IAM stack with cheese or a plate of noodles or a floor made of snakes. And you're anticipating this situation where you will have to go live with the new IAM solutions and just switch the old solution for the new one. And it's reasonable to fear that moment. And so you're probably thinking about upgrading your IAM stack. And that's probably the hardest IAM project, upgrading something that exists, that works, that people think works, or that people just abhor. And that's what you're dealing with. So what kind of difficulties can you encounter when you launch an IGA project? Well, you have to gather requirements from the end users. Sometimes it's not even documented. You don't know where you're going. You don't know from where you start. And you have to retro document. You have to understand what's done in the solution. And that's not easy. You may have grumpy users facing you. And actually, upgrading the IGA stack is generally a project that is launched because you have to deal with technical debt. You have a vendor that is not supporting the solution anymore, so you have to upgrade. And by the way, you're not happy with that vendor, so you selected another one, and management just got you the budget to switch that technical solution. Yet, it is going to be seen as an opportunity maybe to enhance some things, and you will have to deal with a bunch of requirements. You will have to enhance the user experience, which is bad because it dates from 10 years ago. You will have to manage integration with ITSM, which is shiny now and did not exist at the time. You will have to enhance performance because the company scaled and you have more identities to deal with and the performance sucks. You want to simplify the workflows or you want to complexify them because you have new regulations and requirements that dealing with that. You have a lot of applications that's updated and they do not support anymore. They support more modern protocols for provisioning or for authentication. Anyway, you have a lot of things to do. And it was not initially what you thought it would be. It's not a technical debt project anymore. It's much more than that, and we'll see that this imbalance is quite a problem for those projects. So it's only about technical debt. You're going to try to just change the technical solutions, but you're not going to question how it's configured, why it's configured that way. You're not going to question how it's integrated with the IS. You want to reproduce the same functionalities, the same technical requirements, the same non-technical requirements, and you're not also going to challenge the organization around the IAM processes, whether you want to leverage more on the managers or whether you want to reduce the strain on a central IAM team. And you're not maybe taking into consideration whether the enterprise context may have changed. So you are going to try to attempt and to improve, replace the solution without questioning the requirements, and you will have problems because there are technological difference between older and newer solutions. Newer solutions deal better with a lot of things. Architectures have modernized since 10 years ago. The people that were there for the previous project may not be there anymore. So no one actually know what the solution does or why it does this. And was that a requirement at the time, or was that a workaround because the solution did not support what you wanted to actually do. So you have customizations that you are going to reproduce blindly without questioning them. And you might also under-evaluate the user impact. You're going to put a new solution in the hands of the users. They are used to an old interface. It's a horrible interface, yet they know how to use it, and they don't question anyone at the support or within the IAM team. If you're going to put in their hands a new tool, they're going to have questions, a lot of them, and you will have to. You should clearly anticipate about this. Or maybe you're going to say, okay, it's an opportunity to enhance. We have problems. We do know about problems with the current solutions. So let's have a conversation and let's question the requirements and let's update some of the customization that we did, some of the parameters that we dealt with, and you're going to actually try to rethink some of the way the solution works. So this is better. You're actually doing a better job because you're going to anticipate a lot of problems during the project. Yet you assume something and you presume several things. Actually, the IAM solution that you deployed 10 years ago, you probably updated it with additional tricks, additional developments, customization over the time, and probably this is not something that is correctly documented. The initial ambitions of the project back in the time, the organization of the company, the IAM process are probably not relevant anymore. Probably you can now rely more on managers to actually decentralize some of the stuff, like checking whether user provisioning is done correctly, whether access reviews can be decentralized, and maybe the enterprise context has changed. For instance, regulations may come, audits may unearth new requirements that were not present at the time, and if you do not challenge this, you will also have a problem because you will deliver something that is not fit for today's purpose. And it's probably not about enhancing, but about embracing the many changes that the company has known over the years. And you have to admit that there are some evolutions within the company that you should take into account. For instance, the new requirements linked to regulations or audit that you have to document and that you have to put first in the list of requirements for your new project. You have to adapt to organizational changes. Maybe you have new companies that you bought, and that it's a good moment to think about whether the processes for the initial company are still fit for the current one. Probably you made changes to infrastructure. Probably you have applications that evolved. Cloud applications are now the majority within the company, and it's not about provisioning the same way you did at the time. It's not about authenticating the same applications that you did at the time. It's about adapting to this. And you definitely have then to redefine and share your IAM ambition. You have to definitely understand that it's going to be a challenge, and you're going to have to update the organization, the processes, and that's going to be not only a technical project, it's going to be much more than this. What to do then? Well, the IAM solution setup is just what you see at first, but there are many other things to consider. A new authorization model. You have to think about a data repository and data cleansing. That's the right moment to do that in order to not cope with that when you roll out in production. You have to define the new processes and the change management that is associated to that, and to anticipate that. And you also have to redefine the interactions you have with the information system and all the other dependencies. So it's not about a solution setup, it's about all these tasks and probably some more. And the right guy to set up your solution is probably not the same guy to be a program leader, because this is actually a program, an identity and access management program. It's not a project anymore. It's really something that will appeal to a lot of stakeholders within the company. You will have to deal with higher management. You will have to deal with business people. You will have to deal with change management people. And it's not about knowing how LDAP works, how scheme works, how technical protocols work. People that know that, technical skills, they're good to be leading this stream. They're not fit to lead the other field. And the program leader, he can rely on a project management office, and to do that stuff requires specific skills which are not technical skills. So coming back to Ian's keynote, hiring non-identity people at some point in your IAM project, I think it's a relevant advice that he gave us, and that's something that feels like what I want to tell you today. The same thing, you will have, it's the right moment to define your principles, your IAM principles and policies. It's the right time to set that in stone and to deliver on this, and to make sure that you can go ahead for that before you deploy your solution. And lastly, you should not under-evaluate the need for someone available when you go live to deal with everything that will go wrong, and to liaise and to be able to speak to all the teams that are involved within the go live, infrastructure teams, project teams, business teams, HRs, because you are relying on them to be ready at the same day you want to be ready yourself. And lastly, also coming back to one point that Ian made, you have to identify a strong sponsorship. If you're changing the ambition of your IAM project from a technical project to an IAM program, which is much more than this, you will have to go up the chain of command and to find the right stakeholder to be able to make sure that people will go on with you on that same journey, to make sure that HR, business, internal audit, infrastructure teams are dedicated to the right amount of time, the right amount of resource to your project for it to be successful. And maybe you should not go straightforwardly to design, build, deploy, but maybe you have to find the right path to a successful deployment. Because the right path is probably a subtle equilibrium between many things. You have to deal with the legacy technical constraints that still exist. They're not disappearing overnight. You have the current organization and processes that you have to abide by. You have the tool capabilities and the roadmap of the tool that you selected, and you have to do with that. And sometimes when you launch the project, all the features that you envision in the target are not yet there. You have to deal with best practices against what you can actually do within your organization because you have constraints. And you know about other changes that are going to happen to your company, other evolutions, applications that will evolve, a migration that will happen. The on-prem HR solution will move to the cloud in 3 months. How do you cope with that? Are you going to align the planets and align the plannings of your projects, or are you making sure that you deliver something that is compatible with the two options? Things like this. So you will have to anticipate and find the right path there. For instance, one of the right paths is maybe not decommissioning the old IAM. It works. You can do provisioning with it. It's a pain to use it from a user experience perspective. It misses some features like access reviews and things like this. So why not deploy just what you need? A front end for end users that is better than the current one. A front end that has access review, SOD, because that's what you miss. That's what is lacking on your current solution. And you will have a quicker project to build, and you will have a quicker gain, a quicker return on your investment with actual features that you can deploy to your users. And yes, you keep the legacy system, but if it's not a problem to keep it, it works, keep it. Thank you. That's Vittorio. And maybe the IAM, the legacy IAM should be part of the roadmap, you know. You want maybe to address the new applications with your new shiny IAM, but just keep your old legacy IAM to do the stuff to provision or to authenticate to old applications that you know won't migrate. They will die soon. So maybe you should have to deal with that. And you have a new IAM solution as a front end that is a master to the legacy IAM. You just send orders to the legacy IAM, so it does the job, and you don't have to deal with the interface anymore. You just have to keep it a bit longer, but it's safer and it's not a big bang change. So it's much safer for the users and the business and for yourself. So I think you definitely have to accept that the IAM journey is full of constraints. You may not see it at first. It's very hard to see how you're going to go to your target. But at some point, if you accept that it will be full of surprises and that you need Thank you, Brian. And you may need to make some compromises to succeed, but that's the price to pay for a project that you will not fail. Thank you, everyone.
So we have time for a couple questions.
Okay. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for a presentation. A couple of comments and questions.
Sure.
First of all, I'm always looking at the stuff from the people's standpoint. And this particular case, I believe that we need to do agile work, kind of. People hate this word, but in general, working with business, not sitting in the room, developing something, go back to business, working with them. But the question for you, what related to the what Ian was talking about, big problem, adoption rate and user experience. From your standpoint and your experience, are you measuring that after the end of the project? And you know, if yes, if you need to do improvement, what you do? Thank you.
So I believe it's a bit different between an IGA project and an authentication project. An MFA project, you can measure the adoption rate. For an identity and governance administration solution, actually you're going to force the move for the users. And probably what I see working is doing pilots with small teams and get feedback from them, get written feedback so you can improve the solution, modify some features here and there, some colors there, and then roll over to more people and still getting that feedback. So it's not about measuring the adoption because you're going to force the adoption, but it's about measuring the feedback and make sure that you can.
Here's the problem. If people will not use the system, they will find a way to get around it.
Yeah, they will.
That's why adoption to me is kind of important.
It is.
We remove deviation when we have a high adoption.
That's true. You can actually force people to use the tool if you trained administrators not to answer workarounds.
We'll take one last question. I'm sorry. Bill, you had your hand first. Yeah, sure.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank
The
you.
one question I have is, what advice do you have for teams that are trying to overcome the fear of failure because they have fallen on their face in the past? What would you say to help recover from that
There's fear.
failure?
There's fear there, I guess. What I'm currently doing in the current project that I'm leading, it's 1 year delayed, so take this advice with, with what you should. It's about providing visibility on the project and maybe rolling out a read-only version first, so people can see the data and see that the data is correct, is the right data. Actually, then you can use that read-only version to do data cleansing, to detect what's wrong with the current data within the repositories. So you make people use the solution a bit before it's replacing the legacy one, and they get acquainted to it. You get feedback, you get useful feedback. You get feedback about the performances as well, because you are going to run synchronizations, you're going to run incremental and full synchronizations. So you're going to detect a lot of problems. And if you show that you take those problems into account and that you can fix them, I think you can gain some trust from the end users or from the supporting team of the tool to switch to the new one, because you will have test run the solution. That's one way to try, I'd say.
Okay, thank you, Bertrand. For those who still have questions, he's here all week, and we'll have our next session starting in about 3 minutes.